So, what does it actually mean to be alive? Most of us would probably say it's about finding peace, right? Stability, happiness. But the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, he had a completely different and honestly a much more dangerous idea. In this explainer, we're going to unpack his guide to living a truly dangerous life, and it's all based on this one short, explosive passage from his book, The Gay Science. Okay, let's dive in.
So let's just start right there with a huge question. What is the goal of your life? I mean, if you had to boil it all down, what are you really, truly striving for? Just take a second and really think about that. If you're like pretty much everyone, your answer probably landed somewhere in this neighborhood. We want a life that's peaceful. We want to feel happy. We want a solid foundation of stability. It's the common sense view of a good life, right? You build something good, and then you just preserve it. You find comfort, and you hang on for dear life.
But Friedrich Nietzsche, he would look at that goal and say, nope. He'd argue that a life of pure stability, of just preservation, that isn't really living at all. In fact, it's actually closer to a kind of spiritual death. Now, that is a pretty wild idea, so let's unpack what on earth he means by that.
So right here, this is the core conflict. On one side, you've got the common goal, stability, preservation, comfort. It's cozy. But Nietzsche's vision of life is the polar opposite. He saw it as this constant state of transformation, one that actually requires destruction and conflict to even happen. For him, life isn't supposed to be static. It's this dynamic, and yeah, sometimes violent process of becoming something new.
And this brings us to his really radical definition of what it means to live, which we can basically call the art of shedding. It's this incredibly powerful idea that real vitality doesn't come from adding more stuff to your life, but from actively taking things away.
And here it is. This is the line at the very heart of it all. Nietzsche says that living means being continually shedding something that wants to die. Just think about a snake shedding its skin so it can grow. Life isn't about desperately clinging to that old, tight skin. It's about having the strength to cast it off completely.
So the key takeaway is this. Nietzsche sees living as a kind of active gardening of your own soul. You have to be relentless about pruning away the parts of you that have become stagnant. Old beliefs, draining habits, dead-end relationships. All the things that feel laborious and are just ready to die. It's only by clearing out that dead wood that we make space for new, vital growth. What he calls these amazing eruptions of life. And this really builds into a clear three-step process. First, you have to be brutally honest with yourself and identify what's weak and old within you. Second, you have to act inexorably. That's his word for it, meaning without pity, without hesitation, and just remove it. And third, this very act of destruction is what creates the fertile ground for new, powerful growth. It is a cycle of death and rebirth that you personally have to manage. Okay, now this is where Nietzsche's philosophy gets really challenging for most of us. Because he argues this whole process of shedding requires something that we are taught to avoid our entire lives, a form of cruelty, or what he calls hardness.
And believe me, he does not mince words. He says that to truly live, we must be cruel and inexorable toward everything that is growing weak and old. Now, that's a tough pill to swallow. It goes against our deepest instincts for compassion and preservation, and that is exactly why Nietzsche thinks it is so vital.
But let's be super clear about what he means by cruelty here. This is not about malice. It's not about harming people for fun. He calls it a creative cruelty. Think of it as a strategic move, a preservation tactic for your own future. Imagine the lava of your potential is being slowly smothered by all this debris of old habits and fears. This cruelty is just the act of decisively clearing that debris away so the lava can flow freely again. It's having the courage to declutter your own soul.
So, as strange as it sounds, this hardness is actually a profound act of care for your future self. It's about being willing to sacrifice the cozy comfort of today for the powerful vitality of tomorrow. It is choosing the temporary pain of real growth over the slow, comfortable decay of stagnation. Okay, so if this necessary cruelty is all about clearing away decay, then what's the real enemy here? It's not destruction itself. According to Nietzsche, the real danger is the refusal to destroy, which he thinks leads to something far, far worse. So what is it? What did Nietzsche see as the single greatest threat to a vibrant, living existence? Stagnation, the true enemy of life. For Nietzsche, is the moral belief that we should preserve everything, no matter what. That unconditional peace is the highest possible goal. This desire, he argues, it feels noble, but is the very thing that ultimately leads to spiritual death.
He actually calls the people who preach this the enemies of life. Why? Because they try to stop that natural, necessary process of shedding. They create a kind of theater, this comfortable illusion where everything seems permanent and safe. But by masking the reality of decay, they condemn all of us to what he calls intellectual poverty.
All right, let's bring this into our world, right now. Nietzsche famously declared the death of God. And look, whether you're religious or not, the implications of that idea are just massive for how we're supposed to live today.
Here's the thing. If there's no divine plan, no external force managing this whole cycle of creation and destruction for us, then who's left to do it? We are. The responsibility to prune the dead branches of our own lives and, frankly, our own cultures, it falls squarely on our shoulders now.
Nietzsche argues that we have to reclaim our power by embracing this difficult role. There's a profound sense of freedom, he says, that comes from taking control and becoming the executioner of your own stagnation. And just listen to that language. It's an act of magnanimous destruction. It's not vicious. It's being generous to your future self by clearing away what's holding you back.
And this powerful metaphor just captures it perfectly. To be human, to be truly alive, is to be a bridge. And not some finished, static structure, but a process. A bridge that is constantly falling apart and being rebuilt from its own rubble. This perpetual cycle is what it means to be alive.
So, let's bring this all home. What is our purpose, our object of existence in this dangerous worldview? Well, it's about learning to embody two roles at the exact same time. You have to be the creator, and you have to be the destroyer.
And these two roles, they are completely intertwined. You literally cannot be a creator without first being a destroyer. The destroyer is the one who clears the ground by shedding the past. The creator then builds the future on that newly cleared ground. You absolutely need both. One simply cannot exist without the other.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The gay science, that joyful wisdom Nietzsche was writing about, it isn't about being happy-go-lucky all the time. It's the art of becoming. It's about joyfully embracing this entire cycle, both the pain of destruction and the thrill of creation, as the very definition of being alive.
So we end with the exact question that Nietzsche leaves us with, turning this entire philosophy directly back on you. Looking at your own life, your habits, your beliefs, what is it that wants to die? And do you have the courage to be the one to let it go? That is the challenge, and that is the reward of a dangerous life.